And what I wanted to do was go ahead and go through some housekeeping notes here just so you're aware of how to ask questions and stuff. We look at this next slide coming up. On your right, you'll see that you have the ability to ask questions there. And since we have a kind of a light crowd today, I'm going to really try to be more proactive on taking questions. Sometimes we get so many people that I can't keep up with the questions. So today it's a little bit different. So if you have questions, I'm going to try to get to most of the questions towards the end, since I want to cover a lot of material today to really give you an idea of what Nintex can do out of the box. And we'll go ahead and go through this. The biggest thing that I want you to notice is down below at the bottom of this slide is my email. I want you to take advantage of my email down here and send me an email if you have any things that you want me to follow up on. And I'll get into more detail of the kinds of things that I can help you with as far as questions go and things like that. So let me go ahead and go to this slide. If you take a look here, who is Netwoven? So we're a company that we've been around for over 10 years. You can see here that we do have a lot of companies that we've done business with. This is just the tip of the iceberg of the kinds of customers that we've worked with. We do a lot of different types of services, and that's one thing I want you to take away as well. We're not just a Nintex shop, but we do Nintex, and we do it very well. We are the #1 Nintex partner. Just so you know, Nintex only does business through partners. So we're proud to be one of the #1 premier partners. As you can see, that's my first bullet item here. But as you can see, like I just mentioned, we do a lot of other things as well. A little background on myself. My name is Alex Viera. I am a Nintex solution architect. So what that means is I only do Nintex here at Netwoven. I'm responsible for making sure that you're successful with this product, whether you're just doing a proof of concept and you want to do a free trial, or you have some kind of business problem that you're trying to solve. You know, a lot of people are trying to go digital with a lot of things they're doing within a company. So my goal is to really help you get there. The great thing about it is if you look at the bottom, we have exceptional Nintex customer references. The reason that we have this is because we don't just sell you the product and walk away. I'm responsible personally for making sure that you're successful with this product. And one of the things I can do is help you with training. I can also help you figure out how to architect solutions. And I'm a non-billable resource. And so what that basically means is, you know, I'm not going to charge you for anything that I do unless we're going to go into a major engagement and I'm working in a different capacity. But for the most part, when we sell the product to a customer, for the first 3 months, I'll get on a call with you once a week or every other week and answer your questions and show you on the screen how we're doing things. So again, this is why we're #1, and this is another reason that we have exceptional customer references. The reason that most of you apply here today is you're trying to figure out how to gain productivity. What most customers start to realize is that attaching emails and Excel spreadsheets and sending them back and forth and doing DocuSigns and all the things that you look here that are things that you either do in a collaborative fashion, everything in yellow, or in blue, that's personal productivity. So the time that you're looking at is hours per week for one individual, one information worker, a very busy person here doing a lot of things. You can probably relate to, you know, most of these things on the left-hand side, and if you could make this simpler, you know, Nintex can help you get there, and I'm planning to show you that today. The slide that I was showing you in the beginning, I really want to point out that this is not a developer tool. This is not your Visual Studio type of development, or it's not even your InfoPath type of development environment. It's much different. There's 6 key components to this product, and when you purchase this product, you get all of them. So the great thing is here, we can build workflows on the left-hand side through the browser. We can build forms in the browser, nothing to download. no products to install. We just log in to our browser and we can build the workflows and forms. The third thing, and I'm going to be showing you a demonstration of pretty much all this stuff today, is the ability to push forms to a mobile device. So think about creating mobile applications that used to cost a lot of money to build. I'm going to show you today how easy it is to be able to push your forms and have a business process that sits behind that onto a mobile device. And it doesn't matter what kind of mobile device, tablet, iPhone, Android, doesn't matter. Having connectivity to other systems as well. So we have Nintex connectors that can connect to Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce.com, WordPress, Facebook. I mean, there's a lot of different connectors, DocuSign, that are available for being able to integrate your business process and streamline things. Something new that just came up is something called Nintex Document Generation. This is a workflow component that you drag and drop. You create templates, and it actually can generate the proper documents for you. So think about customer quotes, invoices, any type of situation where you might want to generate a document. And this is new functionality that just came out in the last couple months, and I'll explain it more in the next slide. Nintex Hawkeye. Nintex Hawkeye is actually a data warehouse in the cloud. So when you're running workflows, you can collect data from those workflows and then later on come back and look at those through any tool like Power BI or Tableau or Excel, any tool that allow you to take rows of data and depict it in a graphical way. So think about an expense report where you want to figure out what groups are spending the most on food and travel and different things like that. You have the ability to create some pretty amazing reports that are pretty impressive. So let me talk about document generation. Document generation is an action item that, like I said, that you drag and drop in a workflow. And as your workflow is running, you might be collecting more data than just what's been submitted through the form. You might have data that you're bringing in from a database, web service, all the different data sources that you're seeing all the way to custom on your right. But the whole idea is, once I have a workflow that's collecting data, now what I can do is I can populate templates and have those templates populated and output that in a variety of formats. So I can take in my data in any format, but I can, through the templates, I can say I want to put 5 documents together. One's a Word document, one is an Excel spreadsheet, and one's a PowerPoint presentation, and I want to consolidate that into one report dynamically. And that's what this control can do for you, and it can output in a variety of formats. The output of these reports can be in PDF, it can be in Excel, it can be in Word, and it also can be in PowerPoint. So very powerful capability and very easy to set up. When you're taking a look at what most people are trying to do, they're trying to automate all these different processes. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look today at creating a leave request, which is very common. Leave requests and expense reports are the things that we do the most for most of our clients, helping them get successful on Nintex. But one thing I want you to know is that there's just a variety of things that you can create with this. And the whole idea here is most of this, if you're an IT professional, used to fall in the head of one individual or one group. The great thing about this product is when I was talking about this not being a developer tool, with the proper training, people can develop their own forms and they can develop their own workflows. We'll take a look at that hands-on. So just to give you an idea of automating processes, I just put this slide in there so you could see that these are all the types of things in just a recruiting process that you can streamline, and most of these things, if you look at it, are things that you would normally do through email and through scheduling on a calendar, but coordinating that and putting that all together is something that Nintex can really help and make sure that you don't run into the problem of having a situation where someone slips through the cracks and you didn't do your background check correctly. Now you're forced to get rid of someone, and it ends up costing your company a lot of money. Performance reviews. So if you take a look at the ability to be able to automate that as well, take a look at this slide for a second. And again, here, as you start to follow the arrows of what's going on here, I mean, these are all the things that Nintex can stitch together in a workflow. Today, what I'm going to do for you is we're going to create an automated leave request, and this whole leave request starts on the left-hand side. I'll kind of draw it out here for you. So, you know, the employee fills out a form over here through a SharePoint list, and what basically happens is this notification goes all the way to the manager. Now, the problem is, no, I won't say the problem, the actual great thing about this is that we have the ability to do something called lazy approval. So the manager, we're awaiting manager approval, but this lazy approval gives the ability for the manager to not have to go to SharePoint to approve this task. So the manager can actually reject over here, or the manager approves, and then we go down and we notify the employee, we update a calendar and team calendar, and then we can go off to HR and payroll. So the whole concept here is the ability to streamline this whole process. This lazy approval, as I was commenting on, gives this manager the ability to be able to approve or reject via email. So they don't have, this manager doesn't have to be online or within your internet and looking at a SharePoint task. This manager just can say yes, no, approve, denied, and this process will go down the path depending on whether they approve or reject. So we'll actually take a look at that today as I build this out for you. You'll see how simple it is to be able to do something like that. So the first off is, you know, talking about the workflow component on the right-hand side where you see my cursor is, you know, we're looking at the browser-based interface, nothing to install, no licensing involved on the client side other than when you purchase the product. Everyone has access to it based on their SharePoint rights. So the whole thing is on the left-hand side, we would drag and drop. From the left-hand side, we have all these different action items. There's over 100 different action items that you drag and drop, and in this situation, we're sending a notification, we're sending an email, and then we're assigning a task to a manager to approve or reject. So we'll be doing something almost identical to this today. These workflows are initiated by actions that a user does, like filling out a SharePoint list item or modifying a list item, but we can also schedule workflows to run. So you can have maintenance workflows that just run and go through and look at data within lists and do the right things as far as notifications. But really great thing here where we can actually get real-time workflow status when these things are running to figure out what's going on within the system. And again, whether you're running this in Office 365 or if you're running it on SharePoint on-premise, you have the same capabilities on both. And one great thing is, like I said, when you're doing something with Nintex workflow inside this designer, it really doesn't matter what the platform is because the tools are pretty symmetrical. So if you know how to do one, you'll know how to do the other depending on whether you're doing on-premise SharePoint or in the cloud. So very good skill set that you can take across from side to side. Again, I want to talk about automating. I put this slide together of being able to automate any type of request. So again, you think about any form that you have, and you create a form in a SharePoint list, someone submits something, so we don't care what it is. All we do is we care that when that item gets submitted, then what we can do is we can have this pattern that you see right here of approval, rejection. We also have the capability to do multi-level approval. So in the case of a requisition that might have 3 levels of approval, we can do that as well. This is just a simplistic case, but the whole idea here is to show you how powerful this tool is out of the box. Lazy approval, I talked about that before. So if you see the automation on the right-hand side, someone submits something, the manager or whoever is responsible for the task that's being assigned, they can actually respond via email. So this is configurable as well, and that's why I was talking about the different types of responses that you can have. You can say yes, you can say no, you can say denied, approved. There's about 16 different terms that map to approved or rejected. So you have a lot of flexibility there, but the whole idea is managers really love this because they can be sitting at lunch and then they get a request for, you know, time off. They'll get the information in the email and say, oh, I'm just going to reply yes or no. They don't have to be on their desktop to be able to do that. Here's an example, and this is one of the things that's very unique to the Nintex product, is being able to take a diagram that you're seeing right here, like this is a requisition approval, and as you can see, the user submits right here an application for a requisition. Then we go to C-level approval. If that gets approved, we go to finance approval, and if that gets approved, then we have a condition here where it goes to one approver or the other approver depending on the value. So this actually splits off into two different ways that someone can say, I approve or reject it based on the value. We can target the correct person, and if this is approved, we go all the way out to and notify everyone, and then we do whatever business logic. But I want you to see that there is roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different stages inside of this workflow. And how does that translate into an actual workflow? And I'm going to show you on the next screen where here it is right here. Here's our initial submit in this first branch, C-level approval, finance approval, and then you notice that we had the condition, is it greater than $10,000? If it is yes, we go down to one person. If not, we go to another. Now, what you're looking at on the screen right now is something called a state machine. It's unique to Nintex. What this does is it gives you the ability to bounce back and forth between branches of workflow. And those of you familiar with the SharePoint Designer, I think you could relate to how complex this would be if we set this up where the final approval, instead of just having approve or reject, had I need more info. What if this person on the right in the lower right said I need more info? They're not approving or rejecting, but they had a third option said need more info. We could go all the way back to the first person or the second person or even the initial initiator and tell them, it's like, hey, we need more information to be able to do this, and start this whole process over again. And that's one thing that's very unique about this product. So if you're doing multi-level approvals or multi-stage approvals, this state machine is probably one of the best things that Nintex ever came out with, because you can take that diagram and do it in Visio and easily translate it into the same vertical swim lanes that you have to do all these different things that you need to do. Okay, so let me move on to the next part here. The form designer, this is all done through the browser as well. There's a bunch of different features here at the top. Specifically right here are all the different target devices that we have. So by default, you have the desktop here on the left-hand side, but I want you to see we can target a smartphone, a Nintex mobile phone, or a Nintex tablet. These are generics that work on every device. So when you create one form, when someone loads a Nintex mobile app, which I'll show you, they can actually use it on any device, but there are targeted devices as well. So there's about 12 other devices that if you want to do it exclusively for iPhone, you don't care about being generic, you can do that as well. So you do have that capability to be able to do that. So we create the forms, and on the left-hand side here, we have all the different types of controls that we can drag and drop. If you take a look here, a lot of people ask, can you do repeating rows? Yes, you can do repeating rows. We can do line item totals that you're seeing right there. We can do sum grand totals down at the bottom to do the summary of this. So everything you can do pretty much in InfoPath, you can do in here. The difference between the two is that we don't associate, the Nintex doesn't associate the back-end business logic with the form. The form is strictly for input, and then we leave Nintex workflow. We rely on Nintex workflow to do all the business logic that sits behind the scenes. So that's kind of the separation of duties here. But again, very little coding. A lot of developers ask, well, what if I need to customize and do something really complex? The great thing is through the settings, let me get a drink of water here, hang on. Through the settings, we can actually do JavaScript. So one of the technologies that sits behind a form for doing customization is we can do CSS. We can do JavaScript. jQuery is the back end, so jQuery is included. So for those of you familiar with doing any JavaScript, CSS, you do have that capability if you want to get down and dirty, but it's not a requirement. The Nintex Mobile. Nintex Mobile is an application, and if you have your mobile device nearby and you have quick access to the store on your mobile device, this Nintex Mobile application is a free download. What it basically does is any form, or let's say that any form that you created for a SharePoint list that you have designated as a mobile form will show up on a mobile device. The great thing about this is that you do not need to have connectivity to fill out the form. You can fill it out offline, and you can attach all different types of data to it. So we can attach pictures, video, documents, we can do all that stuff and submit, and then eventually, let's say we get off the airplane, we can take any of those forms that we saved and have the ability to submit those as well. Okay, this is what the screen looks like. On the left-hand side, you're seeing a Nintex Mobile, the generic that would show up on any device, iPhone, Android, that will give you the ability to look at all your forms. At the bottom here, you can see all the tasks, all your drafts, outbox, different settings. And on the right-hand side, what you're seeing is a tablet view of it, and you can see right here where I'm highlighting where you actually can see all the different views that you have of the data you have. Now, this is really great because it gives you the ability to really work on a remote device and not have to be logged into SharePoint. And the other factor is, let's say you have a hybrid environment where you have on-premise SharePoint and also Office 365 SharePoint. If you publish forms, they will all show up. So it doesn't matter where the forms reside. If I were to click right here on forms on the right where I'm highlighting, or in the lower left where I'm highlighting, if you clicked on forms, there'll be all the forms that you have access to, whether they exist on on-premise or in SharePoint Online. So it doesn't really differentiate. The way you basically do that is you'd have multiple logins in Nintex Mobile, and that would consolidate everything for you. My last slide before we get into the demonstration. Nintex has the capability to communicate with a bunch of different third parties. Now, what you're seeing on the right is just a tiny drop of examples of things that you can connect to. So let's say we have on-premise SharePoint and we're using Nintex for on-premise. I can communicate with Office 365 and push and pull documents from it. If I want to pull documents from Google Drive or Box and push back and forth, I can do that. So this is the whole idea of not having to write code and being able to communicate with any third-party product. So if you take a look at like DocuSign, Salesforce.com, these connectors are all there for you. And in the case that you don't have a connector, one of the things that you can do is you can call web services. So we do have a web service connector as well that allow you to generically talk to anything. Some people do that for connecting to databases, but we do also have a database connector as well, so you can communicate with SQL Server, Oracle, push and pull information, and do a lot of different operations. Okay, so let me go ahead and go to the demo here. I'm looking at creating a leave request. I'm going to start it from scratch. What I want you to see, let me go back and get my normal cursor here. What I want you to see is I'm starting as if we had this basic list here where I've created a title for, that's your default, but I created a leave type, start date, end date, and then description. These are basically the 4 things that I added right here. The choice type right here is the different types of leave that you can take. So annual leave, sick leave, other. I could keep on adding to this list if I wanted to, but I just want you to get an idea that we're starting with a generic list here, and then I want to build on that and be able to create a form and eventually a workflow. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we do that. Once you install Nintex, whether it's for Office 365 or on-premise, you're going to have these icons. And what Nintex will do is it'll automatically do a default layout when you start it. So here would be my layout just if I were to do it straight inside of SharePoint. We want to go way beyond that and do some custom things. So I'm going to go ahead and start the Nintex forms. And you'll see that it generically lays out everything for me. So this is just a starting point inside the designer. I'm in the browser here. I do have the ability to preview, so I can see what this would look like if you just wanted to take a look and play with it without submitting any data. So I can put in a title. Here's my sick leave types, date and time. I have attachments that I can do, other description. When I hit save, it doesn't do anything. So let's say I need to customize this. I'm not really worried about attachments, so I'm going to get rid of attachments. I want to make it so the start date and the end date are on one line. So these are all the typical things that you would expect to be able to do with some tool, but I just want to kind of show you some unique things about this product. Let me take and put the start and end dates in here, and I'll move everything around, and then we'll figure out how this is going to work. Let me go ahead and do this real quick. And I want to take other description here and move it up. Now I want to do something custom. I want to make sure that I don't want to have to see other description if the user didn't select other description. Okay, so one of the things I can do is I'm going to highlight and select both these items. You can see they're both selected. Then on the top here, there's something called add a rule. We have 2 different types of rules that we can have. I'm going to call this new rule my other rule, and the other rule, let me bring this back. So these rules can be based on formatting or validation. So in SharePoint you have the ability to say this is a required field, but you can't really get beyond that. So what you want to be able to do is have the ability to say, if I'm doing a validation rule, I want to have a control, and I might have some rules saying that if this is selected and that's selected, then they can put something in there. Or I can look at the data in there and say, no, you know what, that's not a valid response, or you need to check this checkbox and make sure you do something else. So you have a lot of flexibility using these types of rules. What I'm basically using is a formatting rule for these 2 controls, right? So I can go and take a look at other rule and see that I have these 2 controls here. So I'm going to say I want to hide these 2 controls based on a condition. So here's a condition I'm going to put in. I'm going to say that I have some name controls. I'm going to say if the leave type does not equal other, then what I want to do is I want to hide these 2 controls, so I can go and take and preview this and take a look at this and make sure it's working correctly. So what you'll see now is you'll notice that control's gone and the controls below it slide up, but if we go and add something like other, all of a sudden I get that description, right? So here's how you customize and do things. And we can also go in and do some pretty fancy things. I can hide whole sections of controls and do stuff. Now, people are asking like, can I do repeating sections? And the answer to that is yes. You can have a repeating section where you have a bunch of different controls where people are, adding date and times. I'll just add some stuff here. They have a yes/no checkbox based on the stuff. They have an entry for how many items they want to buy or order. So when you take a look at a preview like this, you can see that I can actually come in there and do some pretty complex things where here's my controls that I just added. We can put in the date and time or whatever. We can have check boxes. Then I can keep on adding rows in there for putting multiple data. So this is a repeating section that gives you the flexibility to do a lot of really complex things that might have lists where you're doing things with lists. Another really great thing about this is that this control that I used for repeating section, there's also another control called a panel. This panel control on the left-hand side is the way that you can take a lot of different controls and put them together, and I can hide and show, just like I was doing with the rules that I showed you before for doing other description. I can actually go in there and have this be the parent control. And so when you think about doing wizards, like you have multiple tabs of data, you can easily do that. So where you can create a forward and reverse button and give the people the ability to be able to fill out a pretty complex forms. Now, on the settings here, like I said, you can do JavaScript, you can do custom CSS. There's all kinds of things that you can do here. You can control the height and grid. Another thing that you can do, and I'm gonna show you this now, is I could say, okay, I'm done with my form here. I want to have this go out to a Nintex mobile phone. So if I click on that, it'll create a default layout for me. So here's my default layout. It actually converted everything. I can go in and move things around if I want to. I can also change the grid so I can get more granular. So here I could change the grid height to maybe 10 and 10. And we can get more granular with the actual placement of all these different controls. But here's the cool thing. Once I'm done with this, I have the rules where we're hiding other description based on leave type that I did for the desktop. Watch this now. Let's take this and preview this on a Nintex mobile application. So now what's happening is we're going to switch over real quick. Here's my phone. I'm praying that no one texts me anything nasty in the next few minutes that I'm showing you this. Here's my phone. Here's a Nintex mobile application that's a free download. I click on that, and I had an expense report that was already, I was in the works here, but what I want to show you is, here are all the tasks that were assigned to me, but what I want to do is I want to bring up the forms. And I'm going to refresh this, and now what you're going to see is you're actually going to see the leave request that we just created, and let's go ahead and look at that, the preview. This is preview mode, so I can test it. So I put in my time off, leave type. I'm going to say leave type without pay, and what I want you to notice is there's nothing below this, but let's say I go with leave type other. Look what happens down at the bottom. And the great thing about this is if you're doing it on a mobile device, you can actually use your microphone to say what you're doing. So I can go in there and hit this button, and now I can talk, and it's going to pick up everything I'm saying. And we could actually submit that. So this, you should see that there's actually some really cool applications that you could do. And I can go in here and test this and make sure that everything is being sent correctly. So now if I refresh, it's as if I was just testing it. So if I refresh, the preview will be gone, but now I know what that will look like if I were to really put it out there. So you know, there's a bunch of different types of things that you can create. This one's incident reporting. One of the things I like about this is you do have the ability to do some pretty cool things here. So if you have the need for doing barcode scanning, it turns your mobile device into a barcode scanner. So look at the bottom here. When I click barcode scanning, now my phone, the camera on my phone is a barcode scanner, and here's a barcode right here. And let me see if I can pick it up. Might not be enough light in here, but it's usually pretty good about doing that. So there, it just picked up the number of the barcode that was part of that. And another thing too is being able to do GPS location. So what you're looking at now is you're looking at my location. Once I'm satisfied that that's where I'm at, I can actually click this button, and it'll put in the latitude and longitude. And this is important because if you're doing anything where you have a mobile task force that needs to show where they're at, this can be translated into an address. So this is very cool for doing something like, you know, inspection of properties, location of assets, different things like that. So just so you know, you have that capability, plus the ability to put in any photos or videos or any kind of documents you want. So I can come in here and, you know, if I wanted to add a picture, I could add a picture of something. Here's my bottle of water, and I could go in there and add that in there and say done. And now that's attachment has been added down here in the lower left. So when it comes to attaching, think about expense reports. When you take a picture of your expense report and you want to submit an expense report, now you can do that through your mobile device. So this is really cool functionality. I have access to, like I said, any SharePoint form that has been submitted as a mobile form that I have access to will show up on my phone. If I don't have access to it, it won't show up on my phone. So all the security mechanism within SharePoint is taken care of for you. There's nothing for you to do there. Okay? Now, everything's done here. See, I'm going to delete this one form because I don't want to post more forms to my SharePoint. Did I just? I would just meant to delete the form for only the mobile device. I think I just screwed up and did the whole thing. Yeah, I did. So I'm gonna go ahead and just publish this. So at least we have a form to work with, so I can show you something. That was my mistake. Sorry. So we're publishing the form. I'm gonna go ahead and close here, and we'll just take a look at the generic form that's there. So this is going to be the generic form without the logic that I had spent the time showing you, but I want to make my point of creating the workflow now. So you're at the list, you go to workflow settings, we want to create a workflow in Nintex, and so here's what I want to do. I'm going to create a blank workflow, and you have different settings. The first setting you really care about is how is this workflow going to be initiated? How is it going to start? How does Nintex know to start the workflow? So when you go into workflow settings, there's some things that you can do. You can set it up so you can start manually from the menu item, but in this situation, I want to start when an item is created, right? So start when item's created, but your business scenario might say that, hey, if someone goes in and modifies something, you want to have the workflow kick off as well. So I could set that up if I wanted to. What I want you to notice is under both these conditions, start when an item is created, start when an item is modified, that we do have conditional start as well. What conditional start does for you is it allows you to say that I don't want to start this workflow unless these criteria are met within the list. So let's say they didn't fill out something, they miss filling out something, you could just have the workflow not start, and the minute it's modified and meets the exact same condition, then you can start the workflow. We do also have the ability to do debugging, so we'll take a look at some of that, but for the most part, you need to set up how this workflow is going to start. So when the item is created in the SharePoint list, this workflow is going to run. So I've set that up. First thing I want to do is I want to assign a task to somebody. And with this task, I want to make sure that it's going to the right person. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to configure this task. And because I don't want to really send this to my manager, like I could say, if I wanted to, I could say, I want to send this, and I can do a lookup in Active Directory. I could actually say, I want to send this to my manager. So whoever fills out this form, their manager is going to be the one that receives the task for approval. You can set this up dynamically to send it to anyone you want to. So you could use a list of people. I'm going to send it to myself just because I don't want anyone to think I'm taking time off and get all these emails. But you'll notice it picked me up out of Active Directory. I can enable lazy approval. We talked about that. When we send it out via email, they can actually go in there. And then we go in there and put in a task description. So I could say time off approval for, and then what I can do is I can add a dynamic reference in here, and I want to make sure it's the initiator's display name. So this is whoever filled out the list, they'll dynamically put in the name here. It'll actually say time off approval for whoever submitted this. If someone rejects, if a manager is going to reject, I want to make the description required, right? I can also add outcomes. So I could say something like need more info. And this again would be a required field so that we know what info is needed. But now what you'll see is 3 branches, and I'm not going to fill out that 3rd branch for you, but just to give you an idea, you can add different outcomes. So it's not just approval or rejection you're doing. I can also set reminders. So with a manager doing an expense report, maybe you want to make sure that, hey, if your manager doesn't respond within 3 days, you want to have reminders going out to that manager. It's like, hey, you need to approve or reject this request as soon as possible. We can also escalate. So the escalation types are we can delegate to somebody else after a certain amount of time or some condition, or we can auto-complete the task. I can say that after 1 week, if no one responds, we're going to automatically reject. So you got to look at your different scenarios for doing stuff like delegation or actually making sure that it completes or autocomplete. The last thing I want to show you here is the ability to edit the task form in SharePoint. So what will happen is Nintex will generically lay this out for you. This is pretty cool. You should be familiar with this. This screen that you're looking at is just the form designer, but you're using the form designer for the task, right? So everything you could do before, you can do now. So you have approval, rejection, you have all these different things that the person can do. One thing that wasn't put in here yet is we should have saved the task so that we get the more info. So one thing I can do is I can close this. Let me go ahead and close this. I'm going to save what we originally done and then come back and open it, and then you'll see something happen here. Hang on. Let's go to configure. So this will come up and give us all those different options, and then we'll go in here and take a look at this again. No, I guess it's not putting it in there for some reason. But the point I wanted to talk to you about is, having the different outcomes available to you. You'll see it when we actually generate it for real. Here are all the properties. It actually takes all the list item properties and puts them down here for you. So what does a manager need to see to make a decision to approve, reject, or need more info? Maybe that manager only needs to know the leave type, the start date, and the end date. So I can go in there and make modifications and say, okay, we don't need title, we don't need a lot of this information. All the manager really cares about is what is the leave type, and here's the list properties that you can modify this text to say anything you want to. So all this manager cares about is leave type, start date, and end date. And they can make all these decisions that they want to. With the workflow status, maybe we really don't care about that either. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. We can preview it, but for time's sake, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. It's been saved. I'm going to say close, and now we're going to save this. So the next thing I want to do is we want to send notifications. I want to send out a notification to the person if they've been rejected, and then we're going to do some other things. So the first thing in rejection case, I'm going to send notification. Who am I sending it to? I want to send it to the initiator. Whoever filled out the form, I want to tell them that they've been rejected. So I just put initiator. And here's a subject line, and I'm going to say something like this. I'm going to go and put a custom subject line, and I'm going to put in something like sorry, and I created this line prior. I'm going to say initiator's display name. So sorry, whatever the name is who submitted, your request has been rejected. So I'm going to say okay to that, and I'm just going to take and put in a generic message in the email that you'll see. But I could do some pretty fancy stuff if I wanted to in here. So I'm just going to basically create the same thing. So we'll insert the reference initiator's display name. We'll go ahead and put that in there. So the request has been rejected. Let's go ahead and save that. I'm going to copy this to make things a little more simple, and I'm going to paste this over here. And all we need to do is change the message that's going over here, and this will be your request has been approved. Let me go ahead and bear with me for a second. I'm having a typing issue, so I'm just going to do this simple for time's sake. We'll go ahead and just put approved in here. If I can get rid of cap locks, hang on. This is why you shouldn't type on caffeine. I'm just going to say approved, and we'll just put approved down here, and I think you'll get the point that we could pretty much do anything. So I'm going to say save to this, and now what I want to do is I actually want to do a couple cool things. I actually want to create an entry inside of the calendar, So what I want to do is I want to create an item. So I'm going to go ahead under approved and create an item, and let's take a look at how I do that. So I already have a calendar control that I created. So I have the leave calendar. So it knows that it's the type of the leave calendar, so it's giving me all the options of what I want to do down here. So I want to create the title. I'm just going to go in here, and for the title, I'm going to go ahead and say leave for initiator's display name, and then I'm going to put a dash, and then I'm going to put what type of, here's access to the item properties, and I want to say what kind of leave type they're taking. So what you're going to see in the calendar is leave type for whoever it is, and then the leave type they're taking. So I'm going to say okay to that. We need to know the start time and the end time, so I can just go in to my current item and pick out the start date. And down here for the end time, I can do the same thing for the current item. I want the end date. So you're just selecting stuff that the user already put inside of the list there, and I'm just using it inside the calendar. So I save that, and now we have a functional workflow. Okay, so let me go ahead and publish this, and I'm going to call this new workflow 5556 just because I've done this before and I'm using a lot of names for workflows. So when this publishes, we'll actually go through and be able to see this working. Okay, it's been published. Let's go ahead and go back here. Let me go ahead and open up the leave request. I'll open up in a new tab so we can see it. So here's our form. I'm going to put in title my time off. I'm going to take leave type other, and I'm going to take today off. Okay, so we're going to go, I'm just going to leave these dates, and I'm going to say for description, very nice day, need some time to play. And I'm going to go ahead and say save. So when I go in there, you can see that we have this entry that's actually been put out there. And with the workflow, what will basically happen is I will actually see this request come through. So let me bring up my email, and we're going to take a look and see. Here's my first response. So remember that the manager was going to get the first notification. That was the first thing that was happening in the workflow. So there's a task here. If we take a look at this, you know, it's my time off, and we can actually go and take a look and see what it is that the person's actually doing, right? That's the first thing we're taking a look at. I can go respond to the task if I want to by clicking here. Notice at the bottom, and you can customize this. Kind of hard to read for you probably, but it says lazy approval enabled. Reply with a valid outcome at the top of the email. So I can do lazy approval here if I wanted to. You can customize this. This is just a generic message here. But let's go ahead and respond to the task. So what I want you to see is I have 3 different options. Remember, I had approved, rejected, or need more info. So if I go and do it rejected and just try to say okay, remember we had a rule in there, and I think I deleted that one. So that's why, remember we had that rule that says it was required. So that wasn't a good example of this. Let me go ahead and let me go ahead and do a new one just so we see that, because the email actually came through. So sorry, Alex, you've been rejected. So that was that first branch we went to. Let's do another one just so that we can see it actually go through. And I'll say my time off again. And we'll go for sick leave, and we're just taking the day off, and I hit submit. So we should see the same things coming through as far as an email. The first one goes to the manager, which I'll show you in a second. It should come through any minute here. Here it is. It just came through. So here's the manager, my time off again. We're going to go to the task, and then at this time the manager's going to approve. It wasn't required for a comment for that. You can see at the bottom, this was what the manager needed to see to make a decision down here. It was sick leave, and it's the person taking a day off. Okay, I'm going to approve that. And so since I'm approving it, now what you're going to see is we should see an email come through when we go to the leave request. This will just take a second, and the email will come through. Here it is. Remember, I created that simple response, approve. But more than that, now let's go take a look at the leave calendar. Here's the day off that I'm taking, and here's the sick leave. So remember that I had created this dynamic entry for the title and the start time and the end time. But notice I could have added more information. I could have added location, category, and description if I wanted to, right? When we go take a look at this, even better, we can do and view the workflow history. So we can take a look at, hey, what happened with this workflow? And I want you to notice this is something really cool. Here's everything in green was a path that we went down. So it went to a flexi task, the manager did approval, and then it did these other things. If we were waiting, it would be in yellow. So if you're waiting for the manager, it'd be yellow, and these two boxes down here would not be, these two boxes down here at the bottom would be clear. They would look like the send notification. So this is basically giving you the paths that you go down and telling you. Here's another great thing, is I can tell you some very detailed debug information of the values before and after that one action item was executed. So what was the actual, let's take a look. Remember I had like manager's name, here's initiator's name, here's the initiator's login, but what was the actual manager? My manager was here. Here's the manager's display name. So you can see the values before and after, and all the different things that were actually put in there that were modified that end up showing up in yellow. It's pretty cool. So debugging to a very granular level to see what's going on. Okay. Let me go back to here, and let's bear with me for 1 second. Let's go back and wrap this up. This what you're looking at right now is what most companies are using. Everyone has a little bit of a spin-off of the types of things they try to do. But if you take a look at the different organizations within your company, this is where Nintex is used a lot. This is not obviously not the complete list, because everyone does something different. But this will give you some ideas of where you might want to do stuff, you know, whether it's, you know, sitting over here on the right-hand side where, you know, we're doing stuff like, you know, expense approvals or time off reporting, leave requests like we just did. But as you can see, there's a whole gamut of different things that you can do that will make everyone's lives a lot easier. One thing that we offer as well, without the scribbling on the screen, is a Jumpstart program. I actually do these trainings. What we do is we do a very comprehensive training of workflow and forms to get you well on your way to doing state machines, multi-level approvals, very complex forms. So this is as many users as you want to that's part of this. Then we give you 88 hours of development time, and we give you a substantial discount. We actually have faith in what we do that you'll be happy with the product and want to work with us in the future. And so we do discount it dramatically. And you know, the cost a lot of people, when they're asking about what does Nintex cost, you can purchase Nintex on a yearly basis subscription for as low as $7,500 a year. If you have on-premise SharePoint, you also have the option of buying a what's called a perpetual license, which means you pay once and that all you do is pay for software assurance moving forward. So there are some options. If you want to discuss pricing, I really encourage you to take a look, or actually send me an email, and I can have a conversation with you about what you're trying to build and what makes the best, what's the best approach with Nintex. But we can also discuss licensing. And for all of you here today, you know, I also want you to know that we can set you up with a 30-day trial, free trial with Nintex. And if you do that, and you do have a project you're working on that you need to prove out to your management or to yourself, I will work with you on that project to make sure you're not just opening up a product and playing with it. And again, this is a differentiator between us and any other partner. We actually invested time in your success, so I would hope you take that to heart and take advantage of us in that respect, that we will support you completely through the process. So send me an email. I'll be sending you this slide deck after by the end of the day today, but I really want to thank you for your time. I don't see many questions here, so it's pretty silent crew. So let's just save your questions and send them to me via email, and just let me know any feedback, but I'm happy to work with you. I can give you my cell phone. We can get on a conversation and figure out what will work best for you. But I do want to say that when you take a look at the Nintex product is the #1 replacement for InfoPath, and there's a lot of different reasons why. And I think you'll be very happy with this product if it fits your requirement. So thank you very much for your time today. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. All right? Have a great day. Bye-bye.